Welcome to another episode of Conversations with TMN. On today's episode, we have the CEO and founder of Fire, Pratik Gauri. Well, Fire recently became a unicorn. Yes, Fire is now valued at $1.5 billion. Congratulations to Pratik for raising $100 million in Series A round and turning Fire into a unicorn in less than 11 months. So without further ado, let's dive deep into Conversations with TMN.
Hey Pratik, welcome to TMN Business Stories. How are you?
Good, great to be on your show. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Laypersons and maybe people who have never heard about blockchain ever. What would you like to tell them in simple terms? What is blockchain?
Well, it's nothing but, as you know, it's a chain of blocks. So one block stacked after the other. But the cool thing being that once you store data on that chain, you can't actually change it. So it's immutable. That's the beauty about it. So imagine you're going to a shopkeeper and you already knowing what was the cost at which the good was purchased, right? Because you can actually track everything from source to beneficiary because it's all stored in the form of blocks, and it's actually everything is traceable. So it's more accountable, more secure. Imagine you're going to a luxury store and buying, say, a Louis Vuitton, right? And then you already know whether it's a counterfeit or it's an actual piece because you can actually track the entire source. So that's the beauty of blockchain. It's nothing but a series of blocks which are governed by a consensus mechanism. That's the way the blocks are validated, and that's how the information is stored. So that's a blockchain.
How soon could a layperson, for instance, me, walk up to a shopkeeper and say, hey, I can see the price of this product and you're charging me X amount, but I can see that it was, you purchased it at X by 4. Is it possible in these times?
Yes, of course. I mean, that's the revolution that we are in, and that's what we're kind of promoting with Fire, the company that I'm building, which is the fifth industrial revolution that we've been promoting. So we have built a layer 1 blockchain. We want to, in fact, get the entire billion population of India and, of course, the entire 6 billion population of the world on the blockchain. And once that happens, you can actually transact, whether it's or through your mobile, you can transact using wallets. So there is no intermediary. You can actually transfer directly payments from source to beneficiary. You can actually track everything from source to beneficiary. For instance, if I were to donate, say, $100 for quality education, or for, say, 10 kids to study, I want to donate $10 each. So you can actually track as a third party on how the transfer of funds happened, who was the source, who was the beneficiary, and did it actually serve the purpose it was supposed to serve. So that's the beauty of the chain. And I think we are moving very, very quickly. The world's moving very quickly towards decentralization, towards blockchain. It wouldn't be long when you will see the entire population on the chain. In fact, you see CBDC getting rolled out by RBI in India, which means there's going to be a digital rupee which is coming in that also actually puts the entire financial system on the blockchain. I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years you see the entire Aadhaar on the blockchain, which basically would mean that every records are going to be stored on chain. We are actually working a lot of education. We're doing a lot of stuff with educational institutes to store all the data of students and all the academic credentials on the blockchain, which means that you can actually see. So for instance, when you apply to your university, you can actually see if the student, what the student is claiming is correct or not, whether they actually studied at that university. So it basically solves a million problems. And I see that happening in a few years, not even a lifetime. It's going to happen in a few years, very, very quickly.
You said financial system, right? And we've seen so many collapses and crashes. Do you think that this could actually stabilize and probably, if not neutralize, but at least buffer or maybe thwart the collapses that we've seen, the financial collapses in the past?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this definitely. So look, one more cool thing that we are building is we've built a wallet, and you don't need hexadecimal addresses. So right now, when you transact on a blockchain, you actually store data, or you store your money into a hexadecimal address, which is hard to remember. A lot of people are very skeptical of using it because they don't understand it, right? So right now, the only reason, so look, Google made Web 1 easy. That's why everybody uses Google. Facebook made Web 2 easy, which was centralized social media. So you don't know what's going behind the messenger. You can actually chat with each other, but you don't know what's going behind the technology. What we are doing is to simplify everything in Web 3, which is decentralized distributed ledger technology. So what we are doing is You don't need to understand hexadecimal addresses. You can actually transact on a mobile number, and you don't even know the technology that is going behind it, but it's everything's decentralized and you have the power of everything to yourself. So imagine you transferring virtual assets to me. It's going to be like, your name.fire to pratik.fire. That's how the transaction is going to look like on the blockchain, which makes it easier, which makes it simpler. And of course, it's more accountable, secure, and transparent, and there is less chances of fraud and a lot of stuff, and you save on intermediary cost as well. So of course this entire thing is actually started to happen, which of course is going to be great for financial systems, as you asked, right? It's going to prevent a lot of frauds. It's going to prevent terrorism as well, because if you were to transfer, say, it's going to prevent tsunami as well. So like, basically, if the tsunami is coming in, you actually know where the critical points of a disaster is going to look like, and you can actually through your wallet transfer money to that particular junction. And also on the blockchain, as I said, everything is recorded, so it's very easy to track what the critical points are going to look like. So not only does it solve disaster management, it solves financial systems, it makes lives easier of people. It You don't actually need to have a bank account. It basically helps in making the unbanked banked. So it will help in getting the unbanked to become a part of the economy, which is very, very important. So I mean, a lot of benefits are going to come in with blockchain.
In fact, in one of your videos, you mentioned that one of your close friends recently got married on 22/2/22, and she got married on Ethereum blockchain.
Yes. So basically, it's like you don't have to go to a court, right? So basically, you get married. She got married on the blockchain, and there's a block. As I said, the whole data is recorded on the block. So imagine two people getting married. So their name is stored on that block on a particular timestamp. So imagine she got married, say, on 22/2/22, which is 22nd February 2022, at a time which is, say, 22/22, which is 10:22 p.m. So the way the transaction or the stamp looks like, so it's a block where both the names are there. Then it says the timestamp is 22/22. And of course, the date is recorded. So like 10 years from now, it can easily be tracked. As I said, on blockchain, you cannot change data. And that is why there are innumerable use cases. But this is just one, of course, because the data is being stored. So 10 years from now, keeping funny things apart, she can't go back saying, I did not get married, because everything is recorded on the blockchain, right? Or he cannot go back on it. So it's a complete record. But on the same case, it can be actually transported to multiple use cases because of this immutable piece. So imagine you recording anything, right? You basically going to a shop and buying anything, or you basically imagine the entire supply chain of Unilever, for instance, which is one of the largest FMCG companies, can record the all data on the blockchain. Imagine you lodging an FIR. Okay, so you lodge an FIR today and that gets recorded on the chain. So 3 years from now, nobody can change it, which basically means you might be the most influential person on the planet, and you might put all your powers, but you can't change that block. So basically the whole, and it's a public chain, so people can actually track where the FIR was made, what date was it, what time was it, what crime was it. So basically it helps in a bunch of cases, right? In this case, say, solving crime.
You mentioned about arms purchase and having the license, right? So a thought triggered in my mind about, preventing. Do you think there could be, or am I being very hopeful about blockchain, wherein I'm saying that when you say we can track it, right? So is there a way that probably, people through blockchain can find out that, hey, this person also has licensed arms with him or her, but they're about to take it out and shoot out students at college or school, but we can prevent that? Or is it that I'm being very optimistic about it?
No, you're right. You can actually do that because every data is recorded on chain. For instance, a particular person having license to to arms, right? It's recorded on the chain, right? So the whole data resides on the blockchain. So it's going to be like X person has an arms license. But if the son or the daughter of the X, goes ahead and possesses arms, you can actually track them because you can say you don't have access, right? So everything is being recorded. You can't change it. So you don't have to go to registers and check. You don't need even digital registers, right? You don't even need a DBMS, right? It's a modified DBMS, so you save on costs. It's immutable, as I said. It makes the whole system more transparent. It makes the whole system more accountable.
When do you predict that masses could adopt blockchain, and there is a cost factor. You also mentioned about data management, and you said if somebody is using data management companies out there, they're paying a lot. However, with blockchain, it could reduce the cost considerably. I know I asked you two questions.
Yeah, so of course, I mean, both those questions are kind of interlinked. And yeah, I mean, blockchain helps a lot in reduction of cost. Of course, the database cost management, database cost actually goes down because you're recording everything on a blockchain. And what we have done also is, in fact, there is more, the transaction speed is higher, the cost is lower, um, and then what we have also done is the gas fee, which basically means that, you know, when you do a transaction on the blockchain, currently Ethereum is a very high gas fee, which kind of doesn't make it very affordable for a lot of masses. But since what we've done with Fire and the layer 1 blockchain that we've launched, the gas fee is very low, so anybody can actually make a transaction, which is very affordable. So it makes it affordable for masses. You also asked when do I see it becoming a mass phenomenon, when the whole world kind of adopts the chain. I think it's already started to happen. um, the market of cryptocurrency is currently right now at $2 trillion, which is not less, right? I mean, the metals market or the gold market or the stock market is between 15 and 20 trillion. So it's already $2 trillion with a very few people currently participating. So the ticket sizes are very high, but the penetration is still very low. So you're still talking about early days, but that's how Web 2 came into existence, right? When I don't know if you guys remember, it used to be Orkut back then, and then suddenly Facebook came into the play, and they kind of captured the whole market because of easier interface, better UI. And the same is happening with decentralization. Technology adoption is happening quickly than ever before. So when you go back to Web 1, it took longer, right? Web 2 was relatively quicker than Web 1, and Web 3 is definitely going to be quicker than Web 2. So people are now already starting to adopt blockchain. Um, and in fact, when I talk about people, right, it's also about large stakeholders coming into the play, whether it's venture capital funds or whether it's governments or Fortune 500s. Everybody is now contemplating on the idea of bringing all their records on the blockchain because of obvious advantages that it has. And also, of course, the biggest thing being it gives the power back to the community. So you have your own power of owning all the records, owning all your data, which is most important. So those are the things which are already starting to happen, and I think it isn't going to take a long while. In fact, one big thing that we are doing with Fire is we have linked it to SDGs, which are United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So it basically solving social challenges like gender inequality or clean water, access to clean water and access to clean sanitation, access to basic health infrastructure. And I think those problems can also be solved using blockchain. And I think the agenda for to achieve the SDGs is by 2030. And Modi's been very vocal about it. Most of the prime ministers and presidents have been very vocal about it. So I think blockchain also facilitates that kind of transition. It helps you achieve those SDGs. It helps you solve social problems because it brings the whole data on the blockchain. It kind of makes life simpler, and it kind of simplifies the entire process of financial inclusion, simplifies basic social problems, right? So I think it's going to be very, very quick. I don't see it taking a long time. Of course, it's going to be a gradual increase because look, these kind of changes are not revolutionary. So there are two type of changes, right? One is a revolutionary change and the other is an evolution or a systemic change. So I look at this as a systemic change from Web 2 to Web 3. So it will take its own sweet time because people take time to adjust, people have more inertia. But once it happens, it's going to be very, very quick, and it's already happening in the world. I see so many of my friends continuously, slowly and slowly coming into this space and adopting it.
We work with small business owners and medium-sized business owners, and we help them out with digital marketing. They're watching this video right now. So what would you tell them, like, why, if they do not know much about blockchain, why is it important for them to go forth and adopt right now, and what benefits they could derive from blockchain, and why it is essential to just jump on the bandwagon right now?
One big thing is to I think contribute in the Web3 economy, which basically means it gives the power back to the community, which is the biggest thing. So imagine, I was just giving a small use case of an FIR. So when you lodge an FIR currently, you cannot track anything. It takes so much of time. It reduces cost. it reduces the time a bit in the two-way communication between you and the government. If everything is on the blockchain, you can actually track it. See, it makes the whole system more accountable. So I think for a common man, right, it's the best technology, because you get your own power in your own hands. Imagine currently when you develop a website, or you host your data, it's stored on a central server, so you don't control your data, right? And that's why a lot of people have started to oppose, and that's why the movement of decentralization started. So with blockchain, you have control on your data. So imagine you making a website, right, and imagine you hosting it on a blockchain. So you basically control all the data. It cannot be leaked. So that's the power that you have when it comes to financials, or whether it comes to social capital, everything. So that's why you should jump on the bandwagon. Of course, there are a lot of other incentives as well when it comes to financials. The market is going up. But look, people confuse blockchain with cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a very small subset, like a very small subset of the entire Web3, right? So there are virtual assets, digital assets, NFTs, the whole metaverse thing, and cryptocurrency.
Somebody were to come to you and say, what exactly, like, is this like a block somewhere, chain somewhere? What is it? Like, they understand internet, right? But to a layperson, why you're saying, right, people are confused. If somebody were to visualize a blockchain in their mind, although we can't really visualize internet, right? It's like asking somebody, hey, tell me what internet looks like. But is there a way if somebody was to, ask you and were to say, hey, yes, you can visualize?
Well, I mean, look, the way I would, so basically any transaction that you're doing, any data, for instance, okay, you go to a college, you basically go to a college to study, and then after that you need a degree. So imagine all the data of students, all your peers, is stored on a blockchain, which is again a chain of blocks. As I said, your degree is getting rolled out. So I'm sure a lot of you might have seen there have been errors when degrees are rolled out, right? In blockchain, there is impossible to get an error, right? Because all the data resides on the chain. When you talk about student records, all the records stay, I mean, how many of you, I'm sure a lot of people have bunked classes and, then tried for proxies so that they can get away with it. It cannot happen on the blockchain. It cannot happen on the blockchain because every data is stored and it's immutable. So that's the beauty. So that's a daily life example, right? When you go to a college, from the time you graduate, everything, the whole data is on the blockchain. Imagine you transferring data. You control your data. There is no centralized server, right? You basically, it's decentralized. So you control your own data. How cool is that, right?
So you control your data, but for instance, like the apps that you have on your phone, Google or all the other apps that you have, they do track your data, right? So are you saying with blockchain,
nothing's tracked. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing's tracked. Even with wallets, even with decentralized wallets, nobody can track it. It's completely decentralized. That's a beauty. So imagine you having $150,000 and you're keeping it in a wallet. So you can, I mean, it's on a chain. So I mean, a third party would know that this wallet has X amount of money, but it cannot be, there's no link to it, meaning a third party doesn't have access, meaning a bank doesn't have access to it, right? Which basically saves on intermediary cost and a bunch of stuff. So that's where the power of blockchain kicks in.
Why is sustainability critical for our time and this generation?
Look, I mean, so basically when you're born in this planet, you definitely want to gift your future generations a better world, right? And you don't want technology to basically cause harm. You basically develop technology. Machines were made to help humans, not to dehumanize the entire piece, right? So sustainability is a big play in any technology. I mean, if you're not building a sustainable technology, it wouldn't survive for long, because you're ultimately building technology for people, right? And if it has a dehuman angle to it, it wouldn't survive. So same happened with Web 1, happened with Web 2, and same's happening with Web 3, because as I said, any blockchain is governed by a consensus mechanism, which basically governs the way a blockchain works. So when you use a consensus, currently there are two very prevalent consensus that are being used by layer 1 blockchains, which are proof of work and proof of stake. So proof of work basically means you basically, the higher computational power you have, the higher are your chances to get the block rewarded to you, which basically means if you and I are participating in the stake in the reward mechanism, and you are basically having more computational efficiency, you get the block to you. But then that basically also brings you back to the problem that you are spending more energy, which basically means it's not energy efficient, so it's not sustainable. With proof of stake, what happens is whoever stakes more crypto gets gets the block rewarded, which basically means it takes you back to the traditional finance problem that the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. What we have done in Fire is we have come up with something called proof of benefit. So which basically means that if you are, I mean, we basically financially reward sustainable practices, which basically means if you use geothermal energy and I'm using coal, there are higher chances for you to get a better score, and but you are financially incentivized for that. If you have 50% women in your workforce, I have 20%, you get rewarded because we want to bring women into the workforce and solve SDG problems of gender inequality as well. Same's happening with other SDGs. So that's why I think sustainability is a very big play. And what we have tried to do with our layer one blockchain is solve the entire problem of sustainability in blockchain.
Is Fire just another blockchain company, or are you doing a lot more with it?
So we are doing two things. We have basically solved most of the problems that blockchain technology has had. So on one side, I think explained you on the big problem that we solved by changing consensus, which is sustainability, which is most important. And then we have all obviously solved other problems. So we have no forkless upgrades, which basically means currently how many of you have had problems when you update an Apple phone, right? Because it basically is a server oriented piece. Basically, you have to click to upgrade, right? You have to click to change your iOS. But with us, it's not user dependent, it's server dependent, meaning we control that. We can quickly upgrade, which basically saves on time. It saves a lot of human errors and a bunch of stuff. So that's one. And then of course, we have no smart contracts in the way we so basically you don't need to be a coding genius to understand what's happening in the chain. You can actually understand it because we have no smart contracts, no code smart contracts. So you don't need a knowledge of blockchain to actually be a part of the revolution. So we have done a lot of pieces here and of course we have more we have saved on costs. We are way faster than other blockchains. And yeah, so we have basically catered to all the problems that blockchain has had, and that's why we are very different, and that's why we are getting adopted by large stakeholders, whether it be governments or Fortune 500s or family offices.
What is Fire doing in the education sector? Because we keep doing courses in digital marketing, copywriting, etc. So I was curious to know more about Fire's work in education sector.
So we have launched our own digital university, which means we have launched our own digital courses, and we are partnering with a lot of universities, sponsoring a lot of hackathons. The reason we are doing it is we are training young kids in their 20s to learn Rust, Substrate, and Solidity, which are 3 languages and more, which are used in building a blockchain or used in building a decentralized application on top of a blockchain. And the reason we are doing it is of course to make people, young kids, enter the Web3 space. And then of course we want to absorb them into our workforce because we are actively hiring almost every 3rd day. We're facing a very big dearth of talent in the blockchain space when it comes to developers. So that's the reason we are doing it. We are partnering with universities across the world. We are sponsoring hackathons for it, and yeah, we are building a digital university. We have developed our own course in-house to teach kids on how to build a decentralized application using languages which are used in Web3. Yeah, so that's what we are doing with education.
When did you develop interest in horse riding?
Well, it's been 4 years now, so I love horse riding. I mostly do it in Dubai. But yeah, I mean, it's when you are an entrepreneur, right? So you hardly get time. But when I do get time, I love adventure. So I love scuba diving. I love snorkeling. I love horse riding. I love all types of adventures. Yeah. So so yeah, love horse riding and even golf.
All the very, very best for everything that you're planning out there to inspire more people.
Thank you. Same to you.